all of a sudden there's a pause and I'm like, what are they pausing for?
Hi, this is Joanna Rogister. Sorry, go live.
You're not live, honey.
Yes. Hi, this is Joanna Rogister, and this is Real Talk, So Alchemy at Speak Up and Empower. We are part of Speak Up and Empower's online series of talks for experts, people that are focused on heart-centered community that will help change the world, that will help them bring their story, their teaching, their wisdom, their knowledge to the world. And for those that are interested in finding out more, we share what we know with you. Real Talk So Alchemy is all about learning the tools that you need to transform your soul and to become you. I'm here today with Kimberly Devputhra, and she is a divine teacher, healer, guide. And please introduce yourself to our audience, Kimberly.
Hello, everybody. I am so happy to be here today. I love Joanna to pieces. I've worked with her in the past. So a little bit about me. I'm a divine guide, which means I help you guide yourself to your journey. So for those of you who aren't familiar yet with where exactly is your purpose, I help you try to find that. And I guide you through that whole process of coming into spiritual awakening. Through the past 5 years, I've done a lot of work myself and have learned a lot of really cool tools. So I'm also a spiritual teacher because I love to teach, and that's where my heart is. And then I'm a messenger because, well, I get messages from the divine. So as we all do every day, we get messages. So for me, I think I've come in tune to them a little bit more, and I've used them in my daily life and to help others.
That's kind of funny that you've done a little bit of work,
Right?
It's absolutely amazing. We've done workshops together, but I've also been to her for the work that she does. She used to call herself a medium, but it's so much more than mediums. But if you want to connect with the other side, those that have passed, that's possible. But she gives you the tools and the techniques that you need to become that best version of yourself. So it's an experience, and I'd suggest you reach out at any time. But today we wanted to talk a little about how we're moving through all this craziness that's taking place in the world right now. Kimberly is actually in the States, so she's enjoying that eventful time in her world, although from Canada, we're certainly watching with bated breath also, because obviously it has a huge impact upon us. So what are you experiencing in your day-to-day life, Kimberly, with what's going on?
Well, I think there's a lot of fear energy. And I think a lot of people, they don't know how to act, and their emotions are fear-based. Like, what's going to happen when we choose this president? What's going to happen even in the pandemic? What's going to happen with our jobs, with our careers, with our kids? So right now, the kids is definitely a big energy that's out there. The moms and the dads that are trying to home teach. So I think as a whole, our energy, our emotions are just kind of all over the place. And it's really hard to be in the middle of that and not feel that energy, because that energy is going to be automatically in your space.
And that's so challenging, right? Because so often it's actually not our energy, but because we've tapped into it, right? Because it surrounds us, and we watch the news a lot, and we're talking to people, and that's what everyone's talking about, right? That we get caught up in this energy that is not even ours most of the time, but it feels like ours. And so then we think, I'm so worried or anxious or whatever. So what do you tell people? Like, okay, first of all, do you ever watch the news?
I try not to. My husband, however, does.
Okay.
And I have a lot of people outside my circle too, that friends, family, that watch news on a daily basis. So I do get that energy. And so I think the best thing to tell people is you must just do a self-check-in. You must kind of check in with your personal emotions previous to turning on the TV. So, ground yourself and put yourself in love and light, and ground yourself as much as possible. Do a quick meditation. And then if you have to, then you contact that person, or then you turn on that TV. But it helps us kind of center, so that when we do turn on the TV, we don't get all that ego and all that fear and all those emotions that TV brings. And even the media, the way they represent certain things in the media, makes people automatically come into a certain emotion, because we're going off what we were told, right?
It's actually pretty scary. So, it's probably not a surprise that I'm not truly in favor of Trump, but so I tend to watch CNN and, NBC and things like that. But I do check into Fox every once in a while just to see, right? You've got to understand what's being said from the other side and trying to understand how people can feel the way that they do. And it just astounds me what comes across there. And if you think that's all you ever listen to, then that's what you would know. And so that would become your life so quickly. But one of the things that you really said there was, getting grounded into yourself. And this is so important on so many levels, not just, the craziness with the election, but with, all aspects of our life to come back into ourselves and get grounded and be in that moment. What other tools that do you use to get grounded and be in yourself rather than spinning?
I love spiritual music. So I will put on spiritual music. I will also put on meditation. So the great thing is there's so many meditations available now. We have to simply just ask a name and say, Alexa, and she will turn on our meditation for us. So how can we not? How can we not just simply turn on something soothing or something like classical music or something that calms us down? And then, we kind of refocus. And then we have that extra energy to say, you know what, I don't believe that way, or no, I'm not going to get into that. A good example of that, I think, is if somebody were to go into a house and they would say, okay, this house is full. This person's a hoarder. You can't even get in the front door. You can't even do anything. People are going to be like, oh, okay, I'm not going to go in there. If there's a rat in there, I'm not going to go in there because I don't want to see that rat. So we will automatically feel other people's emotion just by hearsay. And that's what's really interesting, is because we ourselves will react. If somebody comes to us happy, we will be happy. Mm-hmm. If somebody's crying, we're not going to smile when they're crying. So we are those types of people. So we will automatically feel emotion if it's not ours. And so media or news or even friends venting, we're going to always feel that energy.
And this is a challenge, right? Because we all know those energy vampires, right? Mm-hmm. The people that you spend time with and you come away, or you get worried even going to see them because you know what's going to happen, or you come away and think, oh my God, I'm exhausted. That was just so trying. So learning to block before you even, as you said before, getting grounded, right? The music is amazing to listen to. I'll never forget the first time I really understood the power of music. I was listening to Andre Botticelli and tears were pouring down my face. And I thought, wow, I just hadn't, I tend to be in silence rather than listening to music, but to actually in that moment, be so profoundly affected. And that it affects us on that cellular level, right? It gets us back in our body and everything calming down and slowing down. It's like Reiki and other natural therapies that can do the same thing, but it brings us back to us so that we can shield ourselves and protect that energy. I know we've had an experience, with learning lessons for me, but with everything going on in this world and all the Zoom meetings, right? And all the online meetings that take place. What do you recommend for people that are engaged in those kind of meetings?
Well, I mean, if you have to show your face, then by all means, you can show your face. But you can do things like, keep your vibration up by lighting a candle during your meeting. Put on a white candle, put something that shows you, okay, I've got love and light here. Picking those candles that make you feel good, pink or red or whatever you think you might need to do. Also, if you have the opportunity to block yourself out, block yourself out. Mm-hmm. People cannot, go direct into your energy field if they can't see you. So they're going to do nothing but go to a name that they see on the screen. And that's not a really good way to connect to energy. So the best way is to kind of back away from that. So if you have options where you don't have to attend with your face, then I would say don't attend. But for those meetings that do, definitely ground yourself previous to putting your energy out there, especially if you're big crowds. I tell my husband all the time, because he works for Microsoft. So you've got umpteen people on a call, 40, 60 at a time. So I tell him all the time, and he does that every time. And people are like, oh, we never get to see you. And I'm like, my husband doesn't mind. But I think that those are good ways to take out of that energy. If somebody's chaotic, it's really hard for that energy to get to you. Mm-hmm. So when you can, block your energy out.
So there's a question though. So what if you have someone, what if your husband wasn't so open to messages like that, right? Or to understanding energy? Do you have a way that you speak with people that Like someone that's perhaps close to you that you care about, but you can't say, you know what, turn your camera off because people are going to attach to your energy. Do you have another way of saying that to people?
Well, I think the best thing is too, is, what's interesting is, family does that to us too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think just protecting your space, if you feel like there's a situation going on, or you feel like there's an event coming on, do whatever you can to get out of that situation. Do whatever you can to redirect it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I like to tell people, just redirect it and refocus it. Because if you can redirect the conversation, hopefully you can get their vibration back up and you're good to go, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think that's such an important point too, right? That it's okay to tell people that you don't want to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's, I've got to, I need to feel better about whatever, however you want to word it. Right. But that, that you don't want to talk about what's going on in the news anymore. Right. That it affects you and, can we move on to something else?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that often, especially if it's someone that we're close to, we think, oh, I need to listen, but you don't. You need to protect your energy, keep yourself shielded. Right. It's always that, put yourself first. And then think about others afterwards. It's not selfish. It's just self first.
Right. We have a really bad habit as giving our energy away all the time.
Yeah.
So talking to this person, talking to that person, listening to this person vent, listening to the news. And before we know it, we're like irritable. And we're like, I don't know why I'm tired. I think I need to go take a nap. And you're wondering why you need to take that nap. It's because of all that energy coming into your energy field. If a big cloud comes and kind of hovers, it's a little harder to see the light through it, right? So I think that that's one of the biggest issues, because once we let so much into our energy field, it's a little bit harder to refocus and get that out of our space. Mm-hmm. So in those cases, we have to do things like saging and things like Palo Santo and sweetgrass and some of the medicinal things, and try to see if we can use oils or things to kind of help clear our space. That's the best way. And that, I think that's a good way of saying, if this doesn't feel good, I need to protect myself. So be an observer.
Well, and it was such an interesting experience this week, because I came into the Zoom with my camera on and then felt yucky, and you sent me a message saying turn your camera off, or that you turn your camera off. But it took me forever. I finally, when I saged, it cleaned out my energy field. But a question I was thinking, what is the difference between the Palo Santo and the sage and the oils? Like, how do you use, or do you use them differently, and why?
So saging is good for your atmosphere. So your environment's good for sage. Okay. Palo Santo is what I call an upkeep. So you can actually use Palo Santo after sage every so often to kind of keep your room clean. But it's not one that's really good if you've had a lot in your space. Palo Santo is good if you continuously are cleansing and you don't have a lot in your space. If you are somebody who works a lot with media and has a lot with public, then you're going to be more out to having more energy in your space. So you might want to think about, saging quite often, maybe once or twice a month, depending on how you feel your energy is. And we can all feel our energy. We can walk into a room and be like, I want to sit here. I'm ready to do work. Or we can walk into a room and be like, I'm so tired, and you feel drained. And you all of a sudden don't want to work. Well, you might need to clean your energy. You might need to clean the room. So Palo Santo is great. Palo Santo also is one of those things that sometimes people use because they like the smell. Sage doesn't smell that great. So I think that Palo Santo has an earthy smell, and a lot of people seem to tolerate it better. And then sweetgrass I love because sweetgrass is sweet, and so it smells good, but it's kind of a harder thing to burn. Because of it being grass, it kind of just like burns a little bit, and then you have to light it again, and it burns a little bit. So it's a little more complicated. And then essential oils are things that are upkeeping also. It's things that you do after you sage that one big time. You can upkeep with essential oils and things like that. You can use really good things to help your moods. So things like lemon or orange, anything zesty will usually help uplift your mood. And then, lavenders and things like that will help you calm down your mood. So you do have things in oils that you can use also. They also do have cedar wood and sage and things like that available in oils now too, that you can put in your infusers if you don't want to sage.
I was going to say, I've got my aura cleanser. Mm-hmm. It's actually kind of funny because my kids now, they're old, they're adults, they're not kids, but they was like, oh, Mom, did we do the sage again?
Yeah, it's really a strong smell. I mean, you
Yeah.
can get the things in different smells, but you definitely want to watch for the ingredients. If you can't say it, I wouldn't buy it.
Yeah. This one is literally, and a friend of mine, actually Bernice gave this to me. Mineral water, essential oils, and that's it. So,
Sounds good.
and it can go bad too, but with this one in a spray pump, I should be okay for it. But yeah, it's funny with the the kids. Anyways, they're always accusing me of smoking dope. So no, I didn't smoke dope. So what about crystals? Can crystals have the same effect?
So crystals are great. Crystals like amethyst, represents love. Things that are darker black, like obsidian or onyx, represents protection. So you can go on the crystals. I like clear quartz because that's something that kind of goes with everything. It kind of helps kind of what I call lift the vibration of the crystal. And things like salt rocks, salt lamps are great. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, that was from Sedona.
Yeah, beautiful. And they have clear quartz lamps too. So salt lamps, you can get those. Selenite is a great one that can also help lift vibration.
Mm-hmm. There's so much out there, right? And so many things that we can do and come to understand it. And I think one of the things to mention there is that you don't have to do it all, right? Like pick one of those things and understand more about them and how they affect you and play with it, right? Like if I have this crystal on my desk, do I notice a difference? Or if I use this, the sage, how does that feel? I know when I cleanse my aura, whether it's just, with my hands or whatever, right, in a pinch, or, when I use sage, that I actually will get a tingling in the back of my head and my crown chakra and on my back. And that to me usually is that there's energy there that needs to be let go. And it's kind of a cool feeling when that does happen, and, really makes us aware that becoming that observer, right? Because probably if I had tapped in before I had used it, that I probably could have felt something there if I had taken a look.
Well, and headaches are really common. So if somebody has a lot of energy going on, they tend to get a lot of headaches. So muscle aches are very common because as we pick up on other energy, it goes to different parts of our body. For example, if you're having somebody vent a lot, that could also represent your throat chakra. Or if you have somebody that's telling people off, or some people that won't tell you how they feel, is sometimes a struggle in the throat chakra. So there's different parts of our body that it can accumulate this energy, as well as our triggers too. And people trigger us, it'll go to a specific spot that represents that trigger, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of us have, what they say, a lot of stuff in our heart, because our heart chakra holds a lot of our emotion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and God, you could spend days talking about chakras and stuff like that, but it is so important, especially as you step into becoming more aware, right? And being that observer, to understand, and to learn to ask, right? As you step back and be that observer, right? Is this mine? Because so often it's not. And I can remember when I first started to get more in touch with myself, I can remember sitting beside someone at a networking meeting, and all of a sudden I had this sharp pain in my elbow. Thought, what the heck is that? And I looked over, and the lady beside me was rubbing her elbow. I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. But then you have to learn to cut it off, because you don't need to feel that. Sometimes it's, it's kind of in your face of, here, this person is experiencing this, but you don't have to keep feeling that. And so how do you keep yourself shielded? Because I know you feel things like that.
Well, you just have to kind of keep your reflectors on. So for me, I mean, there's so many different exercises that we can do that can kind of help us shield. I think a beginner, the really normal one would be to surround you in the white light and to put yourself in a bubble. But people who have kind of done it for a while, which me, I've been doing this for now 5 years, I can honestly just say the simple words, surround me in white light, and I'm good to go. So our vision becomes so in tune that we can actually program our mind by our simple words. Even though normal people can do that in daily basis, like we're always constantly putting stuff in our mind, we're always putting things in our subconscious mind. All of our emotions, all of our fear, all of our anger, sadness, all goes down into subconscious memories, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that one of the biggest things is to constantly understand, okay, where exactly is my energy going? Do I think that I need to do a little bit more work? Maybe I need to, instead of just going into a bubble, maybe I need to do a saying. Maybe I need to, call on the divine, call on the ancestors, call on my loved ones. And if you find that struggling, then bring all those people in help. But there's lots and lots of tools now these days.
Yeah.
5 years ago, not so many.
Well, I think, the tools were there, but we didn't have that exposure to them, right? We didn't know who to call on to ask. I know I joined a group last year, and one of the reasons why, we sometimes question why you connect with a group. And one of the reasons why I connected with this group was to find out who to turn to for more information, right? There's so many people out there, right? Like Sandra Walters, Magenta Pixie, Soledad. There's just so many different groups out there sharing their wisdom and knowledge so that we can grow. And each one of those people, we can tap into it and see who resonates with us. But it's opening up to who the mentors and the teachers are, and learning more. As opposed to just, you were by yourself and you didn't have anyone to learn from. And I know when I first started, I was the same way, right? I would start feeling things and think, I don't know what that is. And it would actually, at first, it put me into that flight or fright mode. Because I thought, I don't know why I'm feeling these things. And, that always makes you wonder, if you think back to people that are put in institutions, right? Were they actually truly empaths or psychics? Or people that, hear voices, are they actually hearing voices, or are they being guided? They hear their guides. I don't know.
Well, and sometimes that is exactly that, right? So me being in the field I am, it kind of opens that question, because I do hear voices. So sometimes I get automatic impressions, and sometimes I'll get automatic voice, meaning I'll hear myself speak. So it'll be my voice in my own mind telling me to do this or do that. So in my opinion, that would be kind of more like guides. It's interpretation. But I can also hear loved ones, but it doesn't. Sometimes I can hear accents. Sometimes I can hear certain voices, and sometimes I hear my voice. So I think that all comes down to who's giving us the messages. Are we talking back and forth to the guide? Or are we talking back and forth to the spirit? And I think that's kind of the difference. When you're talking to a spirit, you get insight about what that spirit's going through. When you're talking to your guide, you get more insight about life. And I think that's the difference. Yeah. Because a guide will say, oh, if you say this or this, then it's going to help them on their journey. And it's going to help them, guide them. And this is what's going on. And this is why, there's a roadblock here and there's a roadblock there. That's what I get from my guide. Spirits will tell me, oh, I passed this way and this is what happened. And I want to, they'll show me back a memory from 10 years ago or however long ago. And then I'll go into that memory. And I think that's how we start to learn the differences from the voices. It's the gestures.
Okay. Well, and that's so interesting, right? And I think that there's so much out there, and there's so much support for us that, connecting with someone like you or someone like me to bring that support and guidance in for everyone is how we go to that next level, right? How we become more aware of who we are and tap into our gifts, our skills, our abilities. You can do it on your own, but, look at you, right? It was such a challenge because you had to do it on your own. And for me, wasn't thrown into it like you, but it's been quite a number of years because I really didn't have anyone to guide me. So, you've got people like us to reach out to and say, how do I figure this out? And so how do people get in touch with you, and what kind of services do you offer?
So right now, I'm a spiritual teacher. So I'll teach you ways that you can kind of open yourself and become more in tune to your inner knowing. And, you know, we're obviously teaching. It's going to, as we go further on, I'm hoping to do more and more teaching. But right now, me and Joanna are teaming up right now. We're doing a course. It's almost over, but hopefully we'll be offering another one coming soon. But also I'm a divine guide. So I will help guide you, and I will give services to help guide you where you are in your current journey right now. So if that means that you want to go to that new job and you don't quite have the confidence to get there, I'll help you get that confidence. I'll help you figure out that way that we can go ahead. And we never have a time in our life where we're stopped, you know, where we can keep going up and up and up, and our potential never ends. We always have so many more tools that none of us have touched even yet. Even years and years of experience, we haven't got to all of our tools that we have. So I want to push you outside your box and push you as high up as you can go. And I'm a messenger, so I can give readings. I can contact loved ones. I can give closure to those situations. When I first started, I did suicides a lot. So I do work with suicides. I work with missing people. I work with murder victims and murder cases. So you kind of get a little bit of everything.
But I think the big thing with Kimberly is that she has so much wisdom, and she gives you the tools, right, to take it to that next step, right? Here, understand yourself better. And now that you understand yourself better, here's how you can use that to move forward and become that best version of you, to take it up to that next level and to keep moving. There is a Confucius saying that when you finish your house, you die, right? And it's true. Like, we're always, it's a lifelong journey of self-awareness and self-development. If you're into Carl Jung, it's individuation, right? But it's becoming you, and such a beautiful journey. So what's your website and Facebook page?
So I am spiritualconnect.com. And Connect is spelled Kinect. So you can find me on that website, and you can also find me through Speak Up and Empower.
All right.
So I do talks here, and I have my own show today at 11 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, Messages from the Divine.
And you have another show too, right?
I have one on Tuesdays also, 11 o'clock. Spiritual Conversations with Kimberly and Rachel at 11 o'clock Pacific Standard Time.
Cool. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. Another Real Talk, Real Talk Soul Alchemy with, I'm Joanna Rochester, and I am the Soul Alchemist. My website, we'll throw up this banner, is Soul Alchemist, soulalchemisthealing.com. But reach out, and if you have any questions for myself or for Kimberly, we're always here to answer your questions. Or if there's any topics that you'd like to see covered, then I would be more than happy to cover them off in future sessions. This was part of Speak Up and Empower's online series of Real Talks, having conversations that change the way you see the world. So join me next Thursday at 12:30, and I've got another guest coming. I just have to get her confirmation. Thank you very much. Have a great day.